Hello, this is the presentation on assignment number 5 for interpersonal communication, completed by Steve Mazzei and Matt Dewson. The topic of our presentation is defensiveness, discussing several types of defensive reactions. Defensiveness is when someone attempts to protect a presenting image or self they feel is under attack. A person feels that they are being confronted with messages that challenge the self we wish to project, and this is termed face-threatening acts. When your presenting self is being attacked and you do not accept the opinion the person projects, we become faced with cognitive dissonance, an inconsistency between two pieces of information, attitudes, or behaviors. Our goal is to eliminate dissonance. There are several ways to eliminate dissonance. You could simply agree with the judgment of the messenger, or use defensive mechanisms that either attack the critic, distort the relevant information, or avoid dissonant information, maintaining a positive presenting image. An example that can illustrate each of these methods would be a conversation between two friends, where the messenger questions the lack of progress the receiver has had towards turning his sedentary, unhealthy lifestyle into a healthy lifestyle with regular physical activity and healthy eating, and consequently an improved physique and positive attitude. The messenger says, "I've noticed that in the 6 months since we agreed to get our act together and hit the gym, stay active and eat better, that you haven't exactly held up your end of the bargain, routinely skipping out on gym sessions and continually eating junk, such as the bag of chips you're currently eating. I also don't see much of a change in the way you look either. I think you need to take this serious moving forward." Now, if the receiver chose to attack the critic, he would use either sarcasm or verbal aggression defense mechanisms. In verbal aggression, he would avoid the unpleasant information put forth and attack the messenger. A possible response would be, "You need to back off and shut your mouth, pretty boy. You're still a weakling in my book. I can outlift you any day." Now, if the receiver instead used sarcasm, he would disguise his attack, basing it around sarcastic humor. He would be attacking the messenger less direct, often using contemptuous and often ironic responses. A possible reply would be, "Yeah, I guess I should listen to Mr. Olympian over here, who benches 300 pounds like it's child's play and has abs of steel." Another type of defensive reaction is what is called distorting critical information. This is a way of defending a self under a perceived attack by distorting the information in order to leave the presenting self, in at least the eyes of the defender, intact. The three defensive mechanisms that relate to this method are rationalization, compensation, and regression. In rationalization, the defender uses logical but untrue reasons in order to account for the unacceptable behavior. In compensation, the receiver would emphasize a certain strength in one area to camouflage shortcomings in other areas. And lastly, in regression, the receiver avoids assuming responsibility by saying you cannot do something when really you just do not want to do it. Now say those same two friends were talking in a different situation where the messenger again questions the receiver. The messenger says, "Hey, how come you weren't at the gym today to work legs and shoulders with me?" A rationalization response would be, "Hey, sorry about that. Something really important came up and I had to prioritize it over the gym." Now using compensation. "I've really been hitting my legs hard lately, so I figured a day off for rest would be acceptable." And lastly, using regression. "Yeah, I can't work my legs. I've been having some nasty calf cramps lately, especially these last couple of weeks, so I decided to take some time off. The last type of defensive reaction that we'll be discussing is what is known as avoiding dissonant information. This is simply to avoid threatening information altogether. The defense mechanisms for this type of reaction are physical avoidance, repression, apathy, and displacement. In physical avoidance, the receiver in our previous example would simply avoid the messenger who questions him. Now in repression, the receiver would avoid facing the unpleasant information put forth by his friend by simply blocking it out whenever it comes up or simply changing the subject of discussion. The receiver would acknowledge the unpleasant information his friend has brought up and simply pretend that he does not care about it. And lastly, while using the displacement defense mechanism, the receiver would aggressively vent to anyone or anything other than the friend who brought up the issue in the first place, such as other friends or his family